What if I told you that two ancient Greeks from 2,400 years ago are still fighting a philosophical war that's tearing apart universities, politics, and even science today? I am talking about relativism of postmodernism versus objectivism. Stay with me, because understanding this battle might be the key to understanding our entire civilization. Welcome back to the Lion and the Lamb of God. Today we're diving deep into one of the most important intellectual conflicts of our time, and it all starts with two brilliant minds from ancient Athens, Socrates and his student Aristotle. They believed that the divine logos of the universe could be understood more deeply by using the divine reason in each of us. If you read John chapter 1, you can see this influence on the Apostle John. John 1:1. King James Version 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It wasn't just religion and the Apostle John they influenced. These great Greek teachers literally built the foundation for everything we consider Western civilization. But now, there's a new philosophy on the block called postmodernism, and it's challenging everything these ancient Greeks stood for. Let's start with Socrates, the man who never wrote a single word but changed the world through questions. Socrates believed in something revolutionary, that truth exists, and we can find it through reason and dialogue. Reason to both him and his student was spiritual, the divine logos that they believed governed the universe, like the Stoics that they would inspire. They believed that the universe was built on order, logic, and divine rules governed by the logos that dwells in all beings. That consciousness is divine. Atheists to this day still can't explain free will or consciousness materializing out of chaos that is nothingness. If the mind is formed from chaos as well, how can we trust it? His famous method, the Socratic method, wasn't just asking questions for fun. He believed that by questioning our assumptions, we could peel back layers of ignorance and reach genuine knowledge. The unexamined life is not worth living, he said, and he meant it literally. Then came Aristotle, who took Socratic thinking and built an entire logical framework around it. Aristotle gave us formal logic, the rules for valid reasoning. The scientific method: observe, hypothesize, test. Categories for understanding reality: substance, quality, quantity, relation. But here's the crucial part. Both Socrates and Aristotle believed in objective truth. They believed reality exists independently of our opinions about it, and that human reason could discover genuine knowledge about that reality. Every time a scientist forms a hypothesis and tests it, they're using Aristotelian logic. The entire scientific revolution, Galileo, Newton, Darwin, was built on the foundation that reason can discover objective truths about the natural world. Many of these scientists also were devout Christians. Here are the top 4 most significant Christian scientists from the 20th century. Max Planck, German physicist who founded quantum theory, one of the most revolutionary developments in modern physics. Won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1918. Georges Lemaitre, Belgian physicist and Catholic priest who proposed what became known as the Big Bang Theory, fundamentally changing our understanding of cosmology. Theodosius Dobzhansky, Ukrainian-American geneticist, whose work was crucial in developing the modern evolutionary synthesis, bridging genetics and evolutionary biology. Ronald Fisher, British statistician and geneticist, who essentially created modern statistical science and made foundational contributions to population genetics and evolutionary theory. These 4 scientists made discoveries that fundamentally shaped our understanding of physics, cosmology, evolution, and statistics, truly transformative contributions to 20th century science. When Galileo looked through his telescope and said, "The Earth moves around the sun," he wasn't expressing an opinion or cultural preference. He was claiming to have discovered an objective fact about reality. Western philosophy became obsessed with the Socratic questions. What is justice? What is truth? What is the good life? Philosophers from Augustine to Aquinas to Kant all assumed these questions had real answers that reason could discover. Even when they disagreed about the answers, they agreed on the project, using rational inquiry to understand reality and human nature. Christianity absorbed these Greek ideas like a sponge. Church fathers like Augustine used Socratic dialogue to understand faith. Thomas Aquinas built systematic theology using Aristotelian logic. The idea that faith and reason could work together, that God created a rational universe we could understand, became central to Western Christianity and drove the development of universities, which many forget the original motto of Harvard, not just veritas truth, but Christo et Ecclesiae, for Christ. Our entire legal system assumes Socratic principles. Evidence matters, logical arguments can determine guilt or innocence, and justice is something real we can approximate through reason and debate. And even though it has recently become controversial, many courtrooms did have the Ten Commandments in their courtrooms. The American founders built the Constitution assuming that rational debate could lead to better governance, and that some truths about human rights were self-evident. Enter postmodernism, roughly from the 1960s onward. Postmodernists looked at the Greek foundation and said, "Hold on, who says truth is objective? Who says reason is universal? Maybe all these objective truths are just the opinions of powerful groups disguised as universal facts." Key postmodern claims: truth is constructed, not discovered. All knowledge is shaped by power structures. There are no universal principles, only cultural perspectives. What we call reason is just one way of thinking among many. The relativist revolution. This sounds academic, but it has massive real-world implications. If truth is relative to cultures or individuals, then scientific facts become just one perspective among many. Moral principles become cultural preferences. Logical arguments lose their authority. Every viewpoint becomes equally valid. Postmodernism is not new and was used as a tool to win debates at any cost. Sophists like Protagoras famously declared, "Man is the measure of all things," suggesting that truth varies according to individual perception and circumstance. They argued that moral and political values were conventional rather than natural, and that skilled rhetoric could make any argument appear convincing regardless of its objective merit. Now it's important to remember, if this is true, then if a nation segregates a minority for all of society's problems and tries to wipe them out, then what's wrong with it? A certain World War II dictator was just doing what he thought was best, so was Mao and Stalin, Osama bin Laden. They were just following what was relatively the best solution, and their methods are justified. Both Socrates and Aristotle vigorously challenged this relativistic worldview. Socrates employed his method of questioning, elenchus, to demonstrate that beneath surface disagreements lay universal truths, particularly regarding virtue and justice. He believed that true knowledge was discoverable through rational inquiry, and that moral standards were objective, not merely matters of opinion. Aristotle similarly rejected relativism by developing systematic approaches to logic, ethics, and metaphysics. He argued for objective standards of truth through his logical principles and proposed that virtues had universal characteristics, even while acknowledging that their application might vary contextually. Both philosophers maintained that reason could discover absolute truths about reality and human flourishing. Think about current debates. That's just your truth versus no, that's the truth. Science denialism. Scientists have their perspective, I have mine. Moral relativism. Who are you to judge other cultures? Academic debates about Western versus indigenous ways of knowing. To be fair, postmodernists raise important points. Much of what was called universal reason did reflect the biases of powerful groups. Western philosophy did often ignore other cultural perspectives. Claims to objectivity were sometimes used to justify oppression. But defenders of the Socratic-Aristotelian tradition argue, acknowledging bias doesn't mean abandoning the search for truth. The fact that reason has been misused doesn't make reason invalid. If everything is relative, then postmodernism itself is just another relative perspective. This isn't just an academic debate. The battle between these worldviews affects. Education, should we teach universal principles or emphasize cultural perspectives? Science, are scientific discoveries objective facts or cultural constructions? Politics, can we have rational debate about policy or just competing narratives? Society, is there such a thing as moral progress or just cultural change? Every day, you encounter this philosophical battle. When someone says follow the science versus question everything. When debates about free speech clash with concerns about harmful ideas. When universal human rights meet cultural relativism. When you try to figure out what's actually true in our post-truth world. You don't have to choose a pure side. Many thoughtful people try to balance. Believing in objective truth while acknowledging human limitations. Using reason while recognizing its cultural contexts.